Durban, July 6, 2025. A press room is packed with journalists and whirring cameras as Lieutenant-General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi steps to the podium in full special ops fatigues, flanked by armed officers. South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal police commissioner scans the room with calm resolve. Moments later, his voice echoes with an oath seldom heard from a man of his rank. "I am combat ready. I will die for this badge. I will not back down." In that charged, hour-long briefing, Mkhwanazi unleashes explosive allegations of political interference, naming powerful figures he claims have aided criminal syndicates within the state. He accuses his own police minister Senzo Mchunu, of undermining investigations into a rash of political assassinations and describes criminal cartels burrowing into the ranks of law enforcement. It is an unprecedented act of defiance from a police officer of his stature, an act that has stunned the nation's leaders and electrified the public. As flashbulbs pop, Mkhwanazi stands firm, surrounded by bodyguards and balaclavas. The central question hangs heavy in the air. What forged this fearless guardian willing to risk everything to tell the truth? With that question, the documentary turns back in time. To understand General Nhlanhla Sibusiso Mkhwanazi's resolve in the face of danger, we must journey to where his story began, in a turbulent township at the height of apartheid. It is the late 1970s in apartheid South Africa. In the township of Edendale, just outside Pietermaritzburg, a young boy named Nhlanhla Sibusiso Mkhwanazi grows up under the shadow of a violent and unjust system. Born on 5th February 1973, he is raised in a community scarred by political strife and segregated by law. Nights in Edendale carry the sporadic crack of gunfire and the glow of burning homes on distant hills. During one infamous week in March 1990, as the country inches toward freedom, the 7-day war erupts in the valley, a brutal clash that leaves some 200 people dead and thousands of homes looted and torched. The apartheid police are accused of standing by or even abetting the violence. Watching neighbors flee with whatever they can carry, 17-year-old Nhlanhla sees clearly how those meant to uphold the law can instead sow chaos. It is a lesson etched in fire and fear. Let's zoom out. Edendale in the 1980s is no peaceful childhood haven. It's a crucible. The community's defiance against apartheid and internecine conflicts between political factions create a dangerous backdrop for any child's upbringing. Yet in this turmoil, young Mkhwanazi's values take shape. Neighbors later recall a boy who refused to be cowed by the daily injustices. Instead of falling in with despair, he was the teenager who helped escort younger kids safely home from school when unrest flared. In church and at home, he learned discipline and empathy, guided by elders who preached self-reliance and service. Surrounded by lawlessness, he hungered for law and order. Not the oppressive order of apartheid, but a just order where the innocent wouldn't have to live in fear. As South Africa's oppressive regime began to crumble in the early 1990s, the 20-year-old Mkhwanazi saw a new path opening. He asked himself how he could make a difference in a country on the brink of rebirth. The answer he found was bold: put on a uniform and help change policing from the inside. 1993, Pietermaritzburg. In the dawn of a democratic era, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi raises his right hand and swears the police oath. At just 20, he joins the South African Police Service as a student constable. The timing is transformative. Apartheid's end is months away, and the old South African police is reforming into a new SAPS committed, on paper, to serving all citizens. Mkhwanazi steps into this force not naively, but with clear-eyed purpose. He knows the institution's ugly past. He's determined to be part of its renewal. His early assignment places him in public order policing, the riot control units that walk the line between chaos and calm in the streets. It's a baptism by fire. In the run-up to the 1994 elections, he faces surging crowds and angry protesters from rival factions. In one instance, a political rally in KwaZulu-Natal spills into a street battle, and the young constable Mkhwanazi stands in a shield wall of police, hearts pounding as stones and bottles fly. but those who served alongside him recall his uncommon composure. He does not retaliate in panic or anger. Instead, he follows procedure to disperse the crowd with minimal force, even pulling a fellow officer back from striking a protester out of rage. It is an early test of moral discipline, and he passes. While some older officers carry habits of brutality from the apartheid years, Mkhwanazi represents a new breed. He treats even hostile civilians as people with rights.
"We are not politicians. We are law enforcement," he would later say of that period. If crime has a political connection, that doesn't mean we stop doing our jobs. Those are principles he lived even as a rookie. Let's zoom out again. The mid-1990s in South Africa saw police services walking a tightrope, balancing the need for firm action against spiraling crime with the mandate to win public trust in a democracy. Mkhwanazi's early career coincides with this delicate transition. Within a couple of years, he witnesses both the worst and best of the new SAPS. In 1995, the country reels from high-profile security failures, even as the police integrate forces from former homelands and liberation armies. Amid this, student constable Mkhwanazi quietly furthers his qualifications. He earns a national diploma in police administration and a B.Tech degree in policing, taking advantage of new educational opportunities for the force. By arming himself with knowledge as well as a badge, he stands out among peers. Superiors note his keen understanding of policing theory and ethics, not just street smarts. By the late 1990s, Mkhwanazi has grown from a foot patrolman into a confident young officer trusted with sensitive duties. He has served on crowd control lines during volatile taxi strikes, escorted election ballot convoys through potential ambushes, and seen colleagues wounded in the line of duty. Each experience steels his resolve. The chaos that defined his youth remains, but now he is one of those striving daily to contain it. After nearly a decade on the ground, he is ready for the next step. Opportunity knocks in the form of a grueling tryout for the most elite unit in the police. Mkhwanazi, ever seeking greater challenges, doesn't hesitate. He volunteers for the Special Task Force selection course, aiming to join the police's equivalent of the Special Forces. Many try, almost all fail, but Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has never been one to back down from a test of courage. 2000s, Pretoria. Before dawn, on a remote training base, a whistle's shrill blast sends a line of trainees plunging into mud. The Special Task Force selection has a legendary reputation, an 85% attrition rate that breaks all but the hardiest candidates. Mkhwanazi is determined to be among the few who endure. Over months of punishing physical and mental tests, from high-altitude dives to live-fire hostage rescue drills, he pushes himself beyond normal limits. An observer might have thought he had nothing left to prove after years on the streets, but for Mkhwanazi, excellence is a moving target. He not only completes the STF training, he excels, earning his place as a full-fledged task force operator. In an elite brotherhood known for nerves of steel, he quickly stands out for his methodical planning and unflinching calm under pressure. By 2005, Mkhwanazi's sheer talent propels him to become the commander of the Special Task Force, one of the youngest ever to lead the unit. In this role, he oversees high-stakes operations that read like action film plots: armed bank robbery sieges, hostage situations, counter-terror raids. Colleagues describe his leadership style as a balance of bold action and meticulous control. When an operation unfolds, Mkhwanazi is often on the ground with his men, clad in tactical gear, breathing the same tension, but he's also the one double-checking every plan against possible pitfalls. Drama without evidence is just a gift to lawyers, he drills into his teams, insisting that every raid ends with a solid case for court, not just a headline. This insistence on professionalism earns him deep respect within the STF. In one memorable operation, an international drug syndicate's safe house is pinpointed in a Durban suburb. Under Mkhwanazi's command, the STF mounts a pre-dawn raid. As the armored vehicles roll in, gunfire erupts from the suspect's compound. Rather than unleash uncontrolled force, Mkhwanazi radios a brief, calm order: hold, contain. His strategy is to avoid needless bloodshed while ensuring no escape. The team moves with precision, using stun grenades to disorient the gunmen. Within minutes, the shooting stops, and the elite officers secure the premises. The raid yields arrests of major traffickers and a trove of evidence, documents, weapons, contraband, all carefully logged. In the debrief, Mkhwanazi's first question isn't about glory, but about the chain of custody for those seized items, warning that sloppy paperwork could undo their hard work. It is a glimpse of the thorough, systems-minded approach that will define his career. The Special Task Force period shapes Mkhwanazi in two critical ways. First, it cements his reputation as South Africa's top tactical policeman, a man who can lead under fire. Second, it instills in him a habit of total accountability, a belief that every action a police officer takes must withstand scrutiny. During this time, he also continues to broaden his expertise.
He undergoes training in counterterrorism, explosives disposal, airborne operations, becoming a rare all-round specialist. By the end of the 2000s, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi is not only highly decorated, but also well-educated, holding multiple policing qualifications and an intuitive grasp of criminology. He has walked the path from township constable to elite unit commander. If you believe stories like this deserve a wider audience, stories of principled service, quiet courage, and the fight for institutional integrity, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It helps bring South Africa's untold truths into the light. In 2011, a call from the presidency abruptly changes Mkhwanazi's path. With the police force mired in scandal, President Jacob Zuma needs someone untainted to take the helm, at least temporarily. At just 38 years old, Mkhwanazi is thrust into the national spotlight as the acting national commissioner of SAPS. The fearless field officer from Edendale is about to discover that the most dangerous battles aren't always fought on the streets. Some are fought in carpeted corridors of power. It is late 2011 in Pretoria. General Bheki Cele, the National Police Commissioner, has just been suspended amid a multi-million rand corruption scandal. In an unexpected move, President Zuma appoints Lieutenant-General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, then head of an operational division, as acting National Police Commissioner. Mkhwanazi steps into the role with characteristic stoicism. At 38, he is leading an organization of nearly 200,000 members, charged with confronting everything from violent crime to internal graft. He inherits a headquarters rife with political maneuvering and a country reeling from state capture machinations. Still, the new acting commissioner signals he will not be a mere placeholder. "I believe I was punished for being disciplined," Mkhwanazi would later reflect on this period, a hint of the battles that lay ahead. From day one, Mkhwanazi makes it clear that integrity and accountability are back in vogue at SAPS HQ. He orders audits of covert police funds and tightens controls on special operations expenditures, moves aimed at choking off the secret slush that had enabled corruption in crime intelligence. Senior officers grumble that he's digging too deep, but Mkhwanazi regards it as housekeeping. In quiet, data-driven ways, he starts mapping the patterns of corruption, planting canary test documents, and tracking which officials attempt to tamper with them. Unbeknownst to many, the new acting commissioner is building an archive of evidence for reforms he's dreaming of. But events will soon overtake his tenure. April 2012, a high-level meeting at the Ministry of Police turns tense. Mkhwanazi has moved to suspend Lieutenant-General Richard Mvlali, the controversial head of crime intelligence, who faces fraud and even murder allegations. This bold step sends shockwaves through the establishment. Police Minister Nathim Tethwa, an influential Zuma ally, is notably cool to the idea. According to later testimony, Tethwa pressures Mkhwanazi behind closed doors to back off, but Mkhwanazi holds his ground. The evidence against Mvlali is too serious to ignore. On 13 May 2012, he formally signs a notice suspending Mdlali. It is a decisive stand against corruption, and many in the public applaud the acting commissioner's courage. Inside government, however, it triggers a backlash. President Zuma, who had appointed Mkhwanazi, now faces political heat from factions that see their patronage networks threatened. Within weeks, Zuma announces a permanent appointment for the top job, one that will replace Mkhwanazi. In June 2012, civilian outsider Ria Piega is named National Commissioner, abruptly ending Mkhwanazi's acting tenure. Officially, it's presented as a normal transition. In reality, as Mkhwanazi later reveals under oath, it feels like a purge. Piega does not offer him any meaningful post. This 18-year police veteran and former STF commander is left at home drawing a salary with no duties for an extended period. He and a handful of other principled officers are isolated and even surveilled by state security agents, as if they were the enemies. State apparatus was weaponized against us, Mkhwanazi testifies years later, describing how he, the crime intelligence whistleblower Dumisani Khumalo, and others were watched around the clock. His crime, it seems, was refusing to tolerate criminality within the police. In one poignant recollection, Mkhwanazi says he personally warned President Zuma during his acting tenure about serious wrongdoing among senior ranks, only to be brushed off. Zuma's response was, "Just give me time, I'm going to appoint someone else," a statement that landed like a cold blow. Many observers later conclude that Mkhwanazi was ousted for fighting corruption.
Media reports at the time hinted at it, citing his clash with Minister Mtetwa and the Madluli affair. Supporters argued that a culture of political protectionism could not tolerate an uncompromising cop in charge. Critics, however, claim Mkhwanazi might have been too rigid or insubordinate in a role that required political savvy. A prominent private investigator, Paul O'Sullivan, even went on record saying, "I want that man to fall, and the sooner the better," accusing Mkhwanazi of grandstanding and suggesting his loyalties were factional. These barbs hardly dented Mkhwanazi's resolve. Though sidelined, he did not resign in protest or lash out. Instead, he quietly waited and continued serving where he could. Over the next few years, out of the public eye, he took on less glamorous assignments, heading a SAPS division for facilities management, then human resource development at National HQ. In each, he used his analytical approach to tighten systems and sniff out ghost corruption, inspecting armories and depots unannounced to catch irregularities, embedding leak tracing queues in training programs to identify disloyal officers. Piece by piece, Mkhwanazi was quietly laying bricks for a future fight, assembling methods to expose wrongdoing even when he lacked formal power. He had no certainty he'd ever return to a frontline leadership role. But fate was not done with Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. In late 2017, political winds shifted. A new police minister and national commissioner sought experienced hands to stabilize KwaZulu-Natal, the province notorious for political killings. Mkhwanazi's exile was about to end. The fearless officer from Edendale would soon go home to KZN, this time as its top cop to confront the very forces that had nearly buried his career. (2018) Durban. After years away from the limelight, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi arrives back in his home province to take command as the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Police Commissioner. The appointment, made permanent in December 2018, is widely welcomed. KZN has been plagued by a wave of assassinations. Local councillors, union leaders, even regional political candidates gunned down with alarming regularity. The recent Madlanga Commission of inquiry into these political killings has laid bare a nightmare: corruption, hitmen for hire, and police ineffectiveness. Now the task falls to Mkhwanazi to address what many call a crisis of law and order in KZN. One of his first moves is to help launch a special unit dedicated to this violence, the Political Killings Task Team. Drawing on recommendations from the Madlanga Commission, the task team is established in early 2018 to investigate the assassinations of politicians and traditional leaders in the province. Mkhwanazi, having quietly designed systems for years, ensures the unit runs on rigorous protocols. Each case file is treated like gold. Ballistic evidence is uploaded within 24 hours,
Witness protection is handled through sealed, trackable chains, and case progress is reviewed on a monthly ledger pinned publicly at headquarters to prevent quiet burying of leads. Quote, "The method ignored the celebrity. It worshipped timestamps," end quote, an observer later wrote, noting Mkhwanazi's obsession with timing and record-keeping in these investigations. Under his watch, the task team scores notable gains. Cells of hitmen are identified and arrested. In one case, after the murder of a whistleblower engineer in 2019, PKT detectives sent to Gauteng traced the conspiracy across provincial lines, arresting suspects, including a police detective and a businessman, exposing tentacles of organized crime reaching into state companies like Transnet. Mkhwanazi's team zeroes in on two kingpins, Vusimusi Kat Matlala and Katiso Molefe, whom they suspect are bosses of a criminal cartel orchestrating hits for political ends. Just as the noose tightens, however, a shock hits the force. In late 2024, the police minister, Senzo Mchunu, suddenly orders the political killings task team to be disbanded. The decision comes without warning or consultation. Mkhwanazi is stunned. By his account, the task team was on the verge of cracking open syndicates spanning KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. Now, a letter from Mchunu claims the team has outlived its usefulness and is no longer required. Mkhwanazi privately and formally objects. He invites the minister to KZN to see the situation on the ground, an invitation that, he notes, is never taken up. When that fails, he raises his concerns to a deputy national commissioner, Shadrach Sabia, calling the disbandment irrational and irregular. These efforts are in vain. The unit is stood down as 2025 begins, and 121 of its case dockets, representing years of investigative work, are gathered to be sent to Pretoria for auditing. Sensing danger in this, Mkhwanazi pointedly refuses to sign off on the transfer of those files out of his province.
He openly distances himself from the removal of the Dockets, which then languish in bureaucratic limbo at national headquarters. It is an extraordinary standoff, a provincial commissioner effectively saying he does not trust what his own ministry is doing with evidence. Within SAPS, this deepens the rift between Mchunu's circle and Mkhwanazi. Meanwhile, another crisis tests Mkhwanazi's mettle, the July 2021 civil unrest. Sparked by political grievances and fanned by criminal opportunism, riots engulf KZN and parts of Gauteng in one of the worst outbreaks of violence since apartheid. Shopping malls are looted and burned, major highways shut, more than 300 people die. As provincial commissioner, Mkhwanazi coordinates the police response in KZN, but the force is badly overwhelmed. In the aftermath, he speaks candidly about what went wrong. Social media, he notes, acted as an accelerant, with WhatsApp and Facebook posts rallying looters faster than authorities could react. Mkhwanazi reveals that he pleaded for emergency powers to shut down social media during the chaos, a request a senior minister refused, leaving police unable to cut the communication of rioters. He also drops a bombshell. SAPS surveillance equipment that could track instigators was left locked in storage because a minister wouldn't sign deployment papers, hampering intelligence efforts as the province burned. These admissions paint a picture of a police chief straining against political chains in a moment of crisis. Not everyone accepts Mkhwanazi's account. During a later inquiry, veteran violence monitor Dr. Mary De Haas delivers scathing testimony. She alleges that Mkhwanazi was effectively nowhere to be found at the peak of the July unrest, accusing him of failing to assert command and suggesting he had been captured by police factions during that period. De Haas's critique implies that Mkhwanazi either froze or deliberately stood back as looting spread, a claim his defenders vehemently reject. They point to evidence that Mkhwanazi was on the ground and that structural failures, like lack of army support and poor intelligence, hamstrung the response. Still, the criticism underscores the immense pressure he faced, accountable for public safety, yet needing approvals from a politicized chain of command even in life and death moments. Through all this, Mkhwanazi's personal resolve only hardens. In 2012, amid his career turmoil, he had suffered a tragic personal loss. His younger brother, Constable Buzo Mazi, was found murdered and dumped in a ditch near Pietermaritzburg. The case, involving a fellow police officer as the victim, left an indelible mark on Mkhwanazi's psyche. Colleagues say it strengthened his already fierce determination to clean up the police, a very real reminder that corruption and criminality within the force cost not just careers but lives.
By 2023, after the unrest and the political interference in his task team, Mkhwanazi had become a figure of increasingly public contrast to the police ministry. Where officers in Pretoria offered assurances that all is well, Mkhwanazi spoke bluntly of the deep-rooted rot he encountered. In one interview, he lamented how some of our own are working with criminals, a stark warning that hit headlines. This all sets the stage for the breaking point. Mkhwanazi's frustration with political meddling would soon boil over full into public view. In early 2025, with the 121 Dockets still stuck in Pretoria and political killings on the rise ahead of elections, Mkhwanazi knows he has to make a choice: stay silent and keep his job, or speak out and risk everything. He chooses the latter. The result is the fiery July 6, 2025 press conference that opened the story, a moment of truth-telling that triggers a national reckoning, and an official commission of inquiry that will drag South Africa's policing demons into the light. If this investigation has struck a chord, if you believe truth, accountability, and fearless leadership matter, then like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps keep these stories visible and supports more work that brings power into the daylight. September 2025, Pretoria. In a solemn, wood-paneled hearing room, Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga gavels to order a commission of inquiry into Mkhwanazi's allegations. The country watches live as General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi in full uniform takes the stand. Over several days of testimony, he methodically lays out what he calls a network of interference that has subverted justice in KwaZulu-Natal. At the heart of his presentation is a simple number: 121. That is the count of politically sensitive murder case dockets he says were improperly seized from his task team, mishandled, and in some instances effectively made to vanish. With spreadsheets, courier logs, and audit trails projected on screens, Mkhwanazi demonstrates that each of those case files corresponds to a real victim and an unfinished investigation.
Where is each file? Who last touched it? And what moved because of it, he demands, leveraging the meticulous records he's kept. It's a bold gambit, using sheer data to challenge the police hierarchy. Observers dub it the moment documents began confessing. The commission hears how, after Mchunu disbanded the KZN task team in December 2024, those 121 dockets were taken to SAPS headquarters under the pretext of Major General Mary Motsepe, head of SAPS Serious Crime Investigations, testifies that Mkhwanazi refused to have anything to do with them once they were removed, forcing the national office to take over. For months, the cases sat idle in Pretoria amid confusion over what to do. Mkhwanazi paints this as precisely the outcome he feared: justice delayed and denied. He alleges that key suspects used this delay to intimidate or eliminate witnesses, and that some of those out on bail for political hits committed new murders while the task team was out of action. In support, he reads aloud from a June 2025 letter by a veteran provincial prosecutor, Advocate Elaine Harrison, who warned that dissolving the task team would collapse prosecutions and embolden syndicates. The picture drawn is stark: a deliberate attack on the value chain of the criminal justice system, as Mkhwanazi terms it. Justice Madlanga himself remarks in the hearings, if the allegations are proved true, that spells doom for South Africa's criminal justice system. The commission's evidence leader emphasizes they approach with impartiality. These are still allegations, not established fact. Indeed, every implicated official is given the chance to answer. Senzo Mchunu, now suspended as police minister pending the inquiry, files statements strenuously denying any improper motive, calling Mkhwanazi's claims wild and baseless. He maintains the task team was disbanded for efficiency reasons, and that any suggestion he protected criminals is defamatory. Shadrach Shabia, the Deputy National Commissioner who executed the disbandment orders, and who has since also been suspended, gives conflicting testimony implying the team's handover was simply mishandled administratively, not malicious. But under cross-examination, cracks show.
It emerges Sibusiso never consulted the task team before axing it, nor could he explain why files had to be physically removed for an audit that didn't require relocation. As more witnesses take the stand, a disturbing web starts to emerge that supports much of Mkhwanazi's narrative. A turning point comes with testimony from a man dubbed Witness C, a whistleblower with inside information. In late October 2025, behind closed doors, Witness C claims that Vusi Muzi Kat Madlanga, by now on trial for murder, boasted of funding high-level police officials and politicians to secure protection. He alleges Madlanga funneled hundreds of thousands of rands monthly to figures including Minister Mchunu and Deputy Commissioner Sibusiso, as part of his scheme to bankroll influence over cases. These explosive claims, if true, outline a scenario of Big Five cartel money reaching into the police ministry itself. Mkhwanazi treats Witness C's testimony not as gospel, but as a lead to be verified. He cross-references the dates of alleged payments against police procurement records and even phone logs, seeking any objective links. The inquiry watches in astonishment as the provincial commissioner produces chart after chart correlating suspicious spikes in supply contracts with moments key investigations stalled. While final proof remains for investigators and courts, Mkhwanazi succeeds in planting a seed of doubt that won't be easily uprooted, a suspicion that South Africa's criminal underworld has managed to penetrate its security services at the highest levels. As the Madlanga Commission progresses into November 2025, the narrative of cartel infiltration is further bolstered by hard evidence of leaks. The commission is shown WhatsApp messages seized by businessman Brown Mkhwanazi, a known associate of Madlanga. In those chats, some of which Mkhwanazi himself analyzed earlier, Mkhwanazi appears to receive inside information about impending police operations and passes instructions like, "Today is the day, just stand back," to others in the network. Crime intelligence officers testified that Mkhwanazi effectively acted as a fixer or middleman between crime bosses and certain police officials. Mkhwanazi, when it's his turn to testify, doesn't come across as a solid pillar of credibility. He admits to being a police informant and then makes a sensational counter-accusation claiming that Mkhwanazi is actually a CIA agent bent on advancing Western interests. This bizarre twist, citing Mkhwanazi's past studies and even roping in the Zulu King as purported CIA assets, is widely met with skepticism and seen as a ploy to discredit the commissioner.
Mkhwanazi's narrative is further undermined when evidence is presented that he himself solicited large sums from Madlanga, ostensibly to pay off officials, which he tries to explain away as part of an elaborate legend-building undercover ruse. Few are convinced. One independent crime expert watching the commission calls Mkhwanazi's testimony unreliable and self-serving. In contrast, Mkhwanazi's meticulous logs and fact-based approach come across as measured and credible. Outside the hearing room, the saga has ignited a public firestorm. Hands off Mkhwanazi protests erupt in multiple cities, echoing the support seen earlier in the year when civil society and opposition parties rallied behind the general. Many South Africans, weary of rampant crime, see Mkhwanazi as a rare symbol of principled leadership. As Al Jazeera reported, he has become a hero figure to citizens fed up with the government's failure on crime. Police unions, normally cautious, have also voiced that the issues he raised must be addressed, not swept under the rug. The political stakes are high. President Cyril Ramaphosa, facing criticism for the ANC government's record on corruption, felt compelled to act swiftly after Mkhwanazi's July expose, suspending Minister Mchunu and authorizing this very commission of inquiry. Yet many note that Ramaphosa's approach remains careful and technocratic, in contrast to Mkhwanazi's fiery clarity. Following the July expose and growing tensions around the inquiry, Mkhwanazi's personal safety became a matter of national concern. His security was reinforced, not through private hires, but via institutional protection coordinated by SAPS and NAT joints. Additional police guards and precautionary measures were implemented in response to credible threats tied to the political killings investigation. Still, there was no indication of any extravagant or preferential treatment. Mkhwanazi himself publicly noted that his family received no special provision and, like any South African household, relied on standard police protection. But that raises a difficult question. Should the family of a man exposing state-linked cartels really be left in an ordinary home with no relocation, no special watch, and no protective buffer? Or are we waiting for tragedy before treating whistleblower families like high-risk targets? Comment below. Should more be done to shield those who stand up? The Commission's findings due in 2026 could recommend criminal investigations or reforms that shake up SAPS leadership. All of this uncertainty swirls as Mkhwanazi continues day by day to do his job as KZN's police chief, a contract that, incidentally, is nearing its end. There are rumors that some in power want him gone once the dust settles. For his part, Mkhwanazi has said he will accept whatever fate the law decides, but he will not recant his claims. Every time I touch someone powerful, there is a backlash. This is not the first time they've tried to silence me, he notes wryly, referencing his long fight against corruption. The untold story of Mkhwanazi is no longer untold. It's unfolding before the nation in real time. From a boyhood amid Edendale strife, he grew into a police officer who repeatedly chose the hard right over the easy wrong. Whether tackling violent criminals head-on or challenging corrupt superiors, he earned a reputation as fearless and incorruptible. These very traits, however, put him on a collision course with a system that had grown comfortable with the shadows. His journey illuminates a troubling truth. Reformers in law enforcement often face as much danger from within the institution as from without. Mkhwanazi himself has said that fighting crime in South Africa means fighting on two fronts: the criminals in the streets and the criminals in our own ranks. His career has exemplified that dual battle.
As the documentary nears its conclusion, we return to the image of General Mkhwanazi at that July 2025 press conference, declaring his willingness to die for the badge if need be. It's a dramatic vow, but not mere theatrics. In light of all we have seen, the political sabotage of police units, the assassinations of whistleblowers, the brazen collusion between gangsters and officials, his words take on a literal weight. There is genuine risk in what he's done. And yet, as supporters rally and a judicial commission shines a light, there is also a sense that his courage is forcing a long-delayed confrontation with the truth. Future of police leadership. Will South Africa's security institutions cleanse themselves as a result of these revelations? Or will the old patterns reassert themselves once the spotlight moves on? That is the question hanging in the air. Mkhwanazi's supporters argue that he should be elevated, not removed, that men like him are exactly what the embattled SAPS needs to regain public confidence. His detractors insist that policing is a collective effort, not a one-man show, and warn that he's setting a precedent for insubordination. The Commission's outcome and the actions of the country's leadership in response will be decisive. But whatever happens, one thing is clear: fearless stand has already altered the narrative. Where secrecy and quiet coercion thrived, he dragged the issue into the daylight, armed with ledgers and timestamps as his weapons. In doing so, he reminded an entire nation of what honest police work can look like. As dawn breaks over Pietermaritzburg's Edendale township, children walk to school in the cool morning air. They pass a mural freshly painted on a concrete wall. It shows a South African police badge emblazoned with the scales of justice. Beneath it, in bold letters, is a recent quote attributed to General Mkhwanazi: "Even if it means to pay with my life, let it be." These were his words after exposing cartels within the police, a pledge of ultimate sacrifice for the truth. It's a sentiment that resonates deeply in communities long betrayed by those in power. The camera pans from the mural to the streets coming alive. The future of South Africa's police hangs in the balance, but thanks to the stance taken by one principled officer from Edendale, a genuine conversation about reform has begun. The story of General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi shows that true courage in law enforcement is not only found in facing down gunmen, but in speaking truth to power. His background, the hardships, the battles, the losses made him fearless, and it is that fearless integrity that may yet inspire a new chapter in the fight to reclaim South Africa's justice system from the grips of crime and corruption. But here's the uncomfortable question no commission can answer alone. If a police general risks his life to expose a captured system and half that system turns on him, what happens after the headlines fade? Is South Africa ready to back leaders who don't bend? Or will we, once again, reward silence over sacrifice? Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell us, if you were in his shoes, would you have spoken out? Let the record reflect what the public believes.